Hello, everyone. It has been a long time since I recorded one of these, and this one is going to be pretty impromptu, very impromptu, and I'm probably not going to go crazy with editing. I really wanted to make this series I wanted to actually increase the production quality and make some really cool videos, and I might still do that and just hire an editor or something. Maybe somebody who's really good with dumb sound effects and stuff. And I might do that. Yeah, I might do that. But as far as this one, and maybe some future ones, I'm just gonna hit record and just talk. Not gonna worry about scripts. Probably won't go crazy on effects or anything like that for now. This is kind of like a, we have behind the Muzak at home. So what we're doing today is I asked people to send me questions to a Gmail inbox that I rarely check. And I have no idea what's in there. You're finding out when I'm finding out. I might have only 2 questions in there or something, and I'll just answer them, and then I'll end the video. There could be a lot of stuff. There could be a lot of trolling. I really just don't know. I don't know what's going to be there. I told myself when I got home from lunch today that I would just go up here and hit record and open my email and see what I can find. And also, I'm taking this medication right now that gives me crazy dry mouth, and it sort of comes and goes throughout the day. But if I talk for a while, and especially if I've smoked weed earlier, my mouth can get really dry. And I mean, I have gum and a drink here, but it just makes my mouth sounds kind of gross, and I have a little bit of misophonia, and I feel bad about it, so I think that it might drive me nuts a little bit, listening back. But thankfully, Isotope has a plugin called Mouth Declick. I'll probably be using several instances of that in the editing. Alright, let's get to it. Logging in, and I see... Let's get rid of these ads and junk mail. Oh wow. Oh, a full page of questions. Oh, and there's more. Oh, it looks like we got 33 questions. Damn. This video might be a little bit longer than I thought. I was certain that there would just be nothing there. I don't know why I thought that. I think it's because I'm self-conscious and I'm being really annoying by bothering people and being like, hey, just telling you for the 20th time, send me a question, just acting like people happen to be interested. I mean, these are people in my Discord and on my Twitter, but I don't really ever expect anything. And so I'm often surprised, I guess you could say. Alright, we're gonna go from the top down instead of from the first question to the last question, because I don't know, it's just easier since they're all in a list and the newest is at the top. Bryce says, how are you? I'm actually better than I've ever been in my entire life, and I'm almost 40. This is literally true. I've spent my mid-teens until now in therapy pretty consistently. I think there are a few periods here and there where, there might have been a month lapse, and there was a few times where there was a longer one, 6 to 8 months for whatever reason, insurance changes, moving, laziness. But it's been overall pretty consistent. Spending so much time working on yourself as if you're broken and then not being able to apply so much of what you've learned in your life. You know, you go to, I swear I could write books on some of the stuff that I have learned over the years in therapy about myself, about the world. But when there's a stimulus of some kind that I'm very sensitive to or that's very triggering, it's kind of like that stuff goes out the window. All of the stuff I learned, it's like doesn't apply because what's going on inside me is so unbearable that it's like I can't go, oh, okay, so what did I learn in therapy today? Like, it takes a skill to even be able to sit down and look at what's going on. And that was always the goal. But now that I'm trying this new medication, which in a way sucks because I don't want to put more weird chemicals in my body, more than I already do with like eating crappy food. But you know, big pharma, blessing and a curse, I guess. But I was able to get my hands on a pill that made it so I could apply what I've learned in a much easier way, and I feel like I value life so much more. I'm having a better time. Any depression I've had has been like circumstantial mostly. Sometimes I have flashbacks of certain traumatic events and, you know, extreme reactions to like certain situations. All of the things that I've learned about all those things I just mentioned, it's like I can put them into practice now, and I can tolerate distress so much more. I can emotionally regulate like 1,000,000 times more than I used to be able to. I do still deal with it, but what's way better is just my general outlook on life. I feel more in touch with myself. I mean, it's great. It's such a blessing. So, Bryce, I'm doing good. Well, it looks like we have a guest. Hi! How you doing? How's it going? Okay, next question. From Nomo. Nenomo. That's not what the email address says, but I don't think I should give away these emails. They ask, on average, how long until you forget how to play one of your songs? Pretty quickly. But then when I refamiliarize myself with it by listening to it and playing along with it, it kind of only takes me like at the most like 4 to 5 times through, and all of the knowledge comes back. So I just need a refresher. But I have to do it between every show. I'll be getting ready for a show and just be like, oh my god, I have no idea how to play that guitar solo. I don't even know what key it's in. And then I'll just get my guitar and pull up the song and practice it like just a couple times, a few times, maybe 5 at the most, and I'm good. Next question is from Melon Sprout. I just mastered an album for them, and they also contributed to a future Angel Wings Marmalade song. They're asking any favorite vocal processing techniques, specifically on Vedic software, what interfacing. I was wondering about the ways that you process the voice in the moment at 111 to 114. Should I have to bring that up? Because I don't know. The way the vocals seem to sweep through higher tones is particularly interesting in this moment in this track. Can you describe any techniques you used in this moment on the track and within this track specifically that helped achieve this tonally dynamic vocal sound? I'm going to preview it really quick, and I don't know if you all are going to be able to hear it. I don't know if I have my OBS. Oh, okay. I mean, it's just a pitch shifter. I just like pitched it up like really high. I mean, there's also a little bit of reverb there, probably a little bit of very faint delay, and definitely some form of saturation or distortion. I distort my vocals quite a lot. That particular scream right there kind of sounded a little bit less distorted than I do often, so it's probably just really saturated. But yeah, my favorite pitch shifter... Can you get so much gunk in your eyes? My favorite pitch shifter plugin is called Sound Shifter by Waves, because it's like... like the cleanest pitch shifting I've ever heard. Like, it's really basic and limited, so a lot of times I'm like stacking up instances of them to do what I want to do. It only gives you an octave up and down, and it doesn't even have like a mix knob or a blend knob, but it's just so clean. So that's what I use to pitch shift on almost anything. Like, even like guitar chords and stuff, I'll use Sound Shifter because of how clean it is. And it's pretty damn inexpensive, because most wave stuff is really inexpensive. As far as like other songs, I just go crazy with processing. I experiment a lot. Working on a new Fire-Toolz song, I'll just look through all my plugins and be like, I wonder how that would sound if I put that on there. So it'd be like, Isotope Trash 2 for the nasty, gross, broken distortion, and then, I'll try like a new convolution reverb to put myself in a different type of room, like a bathroom or a closet, or inside a cardboard box, or in a huge stadium or cathedral, or even in an open field. And then I'll throw a flanger on it, the Arturia, what is it, FL20 or something? I love that flanger. And, I'll go through a lot of my, specialty plugins from, Glitch Machines or something, and all these weird multi-effects plugins with, 12 LFOs and different types of distortion and delay and, granular stuff, and just find new sounds. I go just as crazy with processing on vocals as I do anything else. It's very fun. Do a little skim, see if anything else stands out. Yeah, so it seems like most of the vocals are kind of close to a signature sound. It's a really tight, kind of slightly slap back delay reverb type thing, and then really heavy compression, and then some form of Isotope Trash 2, usually mixed in with the dry signal. And then of course it goes, I don't know, to me it goes without saying, but EQ and compression in pretty much any case with vocals. Next question from Lewis Jagger. Okay, I guess it's somebody from my Discord who goes by I don't know how to say that, but I've seen you in there recently. I don't even know. Am I doxing everybody by saying their names? My question is, you are notably incredibly open to and chatty with your fans, which for me, being one of them, is obviously great. Is this just something that works for you, or do you think more artists of comparable notoriety could stand to be a little bit more familiar, demystified? Clearly not everyone might enjoy smashing through the parasocial fourth wall to this extent, but is it something you recommend exploring? Also, what has your experience been as a fan of other musicians, and how open they've been to discussing their music, other culture, coffee, pets, etc.? Hope everything's great. Stoked for more Angel Wings marmalade. So am I. I'm kind of cold. I'm gonna get my blanket. Many, many blankets. So this is a really multifaceted answer. It's really just not one thing at all. It's there's so much to this. I'll try to make it brief, but I won't be able to because I'm me. I don't really think about the fact that I actually am open to and chatty with my fans. When you asked if this is something that works for me, I'll answer that part of that question first. Yeah, because it's not hard to do, at least not yet. I mean, if the more people know about my music and like it and want to talk to me, I bet you the harder it'll get for me to keep up with everyone. And it's gonna get to a point, if I do gain more notoriety, I'm just not gonna be able to do it that much. I mean, I've seen people blow up, whether they're a YouTuber or musicians. Every time I talk about YouTubers, I just think about the time that Tech from Death's Dynamic Shroud kind of made fun of me on Twitter for loving YouTubers. It's true, I follow a lot of YouTubers. I just, when I hit and I've hit my limit before, there's been some DMs I've gotten that I just haven't answered. And I feel guilty about that, but I just can't always do that. And I don't, when somebody sends you a question or they talk to you, even beyond just like tagging you on Discord, but like DMing you, people you don't really know, whether they're giving you a compliment or just wanting to tell you about something or show you something or comment on your Instagram story. Anybody who does reach out, I think it's totally okay when you do that, but there just has to be no expectation and not feeling entitled to this person you don't know's time. Like, I am not obligated. Nobody's obligated to give you the time of day if they're not, obligated. But like, when it comes to people who are just fans and followers, it does work for me to be really chatty with them because I'm not at any kind of limit. And if I ever am at a limit, then that's how it's going to have to be. And that kind of brings me to the second part of your question. Do you think more artists of comparable notoriety could stand to be a little bit more familiar or demystified? No, they don't have to. They just don't. They're not obligated. If they play a show and they hide in the green room the whole night, they just let them, leave them be. Fans that feel offended when the people they look up to and celebrities and bands and artists and actors, they don't respond or they don't want to sign an autograph or they don't want to hang out and talk. Like, what's your problem? Like, leave them be. Like, you're not entitled to anything from this person. Random person, like, just because you love their music or their work, you feel like they're supposed to like talk to you, and that's bullshit. I think that I will always talk to followers, but if my follower count and number of people who contact me like go up enough, I'm gonna start not replying more and more. You asked me if it's something worth exploring. I'm not sure what you're talking about. You might be talking about artists of comparable notoriety. They could explore being more familiar, being more demystified. Well, okay, if you're purposefully mystifying yourself, there's two reasons you might do that. One might be like part of your not online, but your artist persona. Like there's some artists that stay anonymous and don't post much on social media and don't answer DMs or emails. We all know artists like that. And they could be doing it to make themselves seem cool, or they could be doing it because like they don't want their personal self to be publicly associated with their music as much as they can help it. They like to stay behind the scenes. Nothing wrong with either of those things. I think that anybody who stays away from their fans, yeah, sure, it would be good that they ask themselves, well, like, why do I do this? What's my deal? One thing that I really love about Rush, the band, they didn't really like interacting with fans too often. They're reserved people. It's just too much. They're private people, and nobody's entitled to their time or anything about their personal life. And some fans think it's because they're like arrogant, but it's like, no, they just want to live their lives. They just want to go out to dinner. They just want to get their groceries, But they constantly showed such potent appreciation for their fans. I've seen interviews where it almost seems like they tear up a little bit when they talk about like their dedicated following. But that doesn't mean that they want to like give you an autograph. That doesn't mean that they want to like answer your questions. So that's just kind of how I feel about that. Next question from Memory Splinter. Somebody cool who's in my Discord who did a remix for me and I still haven't listened to it. Hi Angel, how would you describe the process of mixing and mastering noise albums? Is it that much different? Do you still have a target peak or loudness? P.S. The new Angel Wings slaps. Thank you. Process of mixing and mastering noise albums. Yeah, it's pretty different in a lot of ways and very much the same in others. It's like the answers to most questions where it's like A, B, true or false. It's just more complicated than that. If I'm working with harsh noise, There's a lot of stuff that kind of goes out the window. Dynamics ends up kind of being less important because there aren't really any dynamics to begin with. For some artists, I mean, some artists will have super harsh clipping stuff, and then other parts of the tracks will be quieter. But you work with that, but that's because that's what that music needs. If you're working with music that has drums in it, and especially if there's like bass and synth and vocals, like, it's a very careful process. But with like noise, especially harsh noise, it's not that it's not careful. It's just you don't have to be as careful because there are steps that are just have already been completed by the artist, and you can't do anything about it. But you wouldn't want to, because like, why would you want to take someone's brick-walled harsh noise piece? Like, why would you want to add dynamics to that? That's not, the music's not supposed to have dynamics. But there are certain things that you deal with in noise that you wouldn't with other kinds of music. Like, I really think it's important, like in harsh noise, to still be aware of fatiguing frequencies. I don't want to take away from the impact of the music, but if something is really, really heavy in the treble and it doesn't distract from the music to suppress some of those resonances a little bit so that people's ears don't get fatigued as quickly when they're listening to it, then that's a good thing to do. Like, harsh noise can still sound extremely harsh without there being certain frequencies that actually like hurt to the point where it's difficult to listen to the other elements. I think some artists shoot for that, and in those cases it's like, yeah, respect the art, fine. If you really want to do this and make this really fatiguing for listeners as part of your concept, then I'm gonna let people do that. When people make harsh noise pieces, and I've been doing a lot of mastering for Farrah Fawcett lately, and I did something for Burnt Feathers, and they're both just like super, super harsh, super distorted and clipped music. That's just what it is. You just work with that. When you're doing this work, mixing and mastering, you want to take the artist's vision and clarify it. And, you asked, you still have a target peak or loudness. Why would you want to master or mix, for that matter, to a number? You can't hear a number. You make it as loud as it sounds good. As far as, like, not a target peak, but a peak limiter, like, I feel like that's important. So, yeah, I mean, I put my target peak at minus 0.3 dB. Leaves a little bit of room before 0 to compensate for any like file conversions and other stuff that would make the track end up going over 0. And although intersample peaks aren't as big of a deal as people make them out to be, I like to avoid them. So I'll set my ceiling there, but as far as how loud it is, it depends. You might have ambient music that needs to sound like minus 14, and even at hitting the limiter like a fraction of a dB, it like doesn't sound good. So you got to back it down, and it has to just be quiet, and that's how it is. And then I do other stuff that can successfully get to minus 4 or 5 LUFS, and it sounds good because it's the type of music that's supposed to be smashed like that. And as long as you take care of your transients and you're really kind of meticulous and detailed about it and really nuanced, like, you can make something loud as fuck without it sounding bad. And it definitely pushes the boundaries. I mean, people in the 80s would probably think it sounds bad, but the things have just been getting louder and louder over the decades, so you make it as loud as it sounds good. Now, streaming platforms are going to turn you down or up, depending on how loud your stuff is, but just let them do it. Let them do their thing. Don't master for streaming platforms. You gotta master for vinyl. Like, it's necessary because it's like a physical issue that you're going to cause if you don't master for vinyl. But like, mastering for streaming platforms, don't bother. Master things and mix them to sound good. And loudness is going to be part of that. loudness is not just about numbers and peaks and targets. It's not about targets. It's really just about what sounds good. And I understand that like broadcast and like TV has their requirements for like decibel level and stuff, and that's fine. You just kind of adapt to that. That's like required. But it's a myth that streaming platforms need you to master to a certain loudness. Let them adjust it. And then people are just like, oh, well, that, you know, they add a limiter and it makes it sound bad. Like, just streaming platforms, like, what can you do? You know? And mastering for that streaming platform isn't going to fix that problem. In fact, if you master too quiet, it still might sound quieter than the other songs. So just, it's all about how it sounds. It's not about targets, unless it is about targets. Someone named Seaweed Beard. Oh, that's nice. Gave me a TLDR and also the full one, the full question. So I'm gonna answer the full ones because fuck it. I mean, this video is gonna be long as shit. Who cares? Deal with it. Yo, what's up? I frickin' adore your music, Ms. Marcloid. I was listening to Novaturian Waveform Collapse today, and that shit is awesome. Your solos are impressive and absolute bliss to the ears. That's very nice of you. But anyway, I got a couple questions. First off, I've been making crappy music for fun on GarageBand and FL Studio since I was like 13. Now that I'm older, I actually want to make good stuff. Whether that be for me or some crazy beats from my brother, but I find it hard to finish songs. I have about 50 half-baked sort of ambient electronic ideas sitting in my FL projects that I just don't know how to finish. Ah, the old not knowing how to finish a song thing. You're not alone. I swear most people deal with that. I personally don't, but it's just like I hear it all the time. I really love making album covers and coming up with album concepts, but I can never get any content to finalize it. I don't know what your music making process is like, but if you have any advice for this type of conundrum, that would be really cool to hear your thoughts. If you don't have anything, that's fine also. So I do and I don't. I don't because I don't struggle with this. I've never had to fix the problem. I just don't know. I don't know. I just mess around with songs until they feel intuitively complete. And a lot of times I'll think it might be complete and then I'll just have this stupid idea and that song will end up being twice as long. I feel like I can't help with that. But there are two YouTubers that I feel like are really good at helping people with this. And one is Ben Levin and the other is Andrew Wong. Ben Levin has Ben Levin Music School. One of a kind musician and songwriter. He's just creative and unique and adventurous in a way that I haven't seen in anyone else. He gives music lessons and you know, you can play any instrument and he can give you a lesson. Even if it's an instrument he doesn't know how to play, he can still really help you. Especially with writer's block and not being able to finish songs and not being able to think of like what to play, you know, coming up with melodies and you think they're all boring, or coming up with chord progressions and you think they're bland. Like, Ben can help you. So he does lessons online. You can just do a single lesson if you want. You can book it on his calendar, or you can take his course. He's got a couple now. I think he had like an old one, and then he just like, I think did like maybe a guitar course with somebody. And then Andrew Wong, he's on YouTube as well, and his videos are very high quality. You know, he's got gear reviews, and he's also got like stories. He did this crazy series where like he went to another planet. It was like such a high end production. It was remarkable. But he has a lot of videos that are sort of cater to this type of thing. And he just wrote a book and he just released it. And it's called Make Your Own Rules. The reviews of this book I've been seeing are like out of this world. And like, you don't have to like either of these people's music to be able to get a lot out of what they share. Because it's not traditional education in any way. Like, it doesn't do anything by the book anymore, pretty much. And that's why I really value his work. He can help you no matter what you're going through. So I know this stuff costs money. You know, Andrew's book has a cost. Ben's lessons and Ben's course has a cost. But it's really worth investing in your future And even if you had no problem thinking of stuff, it would be really enriching to read that book or have those lessons or go through that course. Secondly, I feel pretty cringed out asking it because I hate asking people I don't know what they think of music, but you seem like the type of lass, L-A-S-S, I don't know what that means, to know some crazy music given what you put out. Okay, so there's four questions here. Under that premise, if you've ever listened to The Caretakers Everywhere at the End of Time, what are your thoughts? Because I think it's fucking crazy and mind-blowing. Okay, I'll fully admit I have not gotten into it in the way so many people I know have. I mean, I've heard plenty of it. I feel like it's something that really deserves a certain type of attention, and I haven't given that to it. But yeah, I think it's great. Thoughts on Lift 2 Experience's 2001 album, The Texas Jerusalem Crossroads? No clue what that is, but if I remember, I'll check it out. What's your favorite piece of music you've made yourself, whether it's the most proud you've been of your craft or just gives you good memories? A lot of them give me like weird memories that are uncomfortable, but I think the best way to answer this is to direct you to my playlist, Fire Favorites. I just picked some of my favorite Fire-Toolz songs and put them in that playlist. You'll find it on my YouTube. Just go to my playlists, I guess. Yeah, something like that. Last question. Favorite album or song of all time? If you can decide. Nope, can't decide. Like philosophically, Rush is my favorite band, but musically, I have no idea. I don't bother ranking things or picking favorites because it's just frustrating and pointless for me. Lastly, I just gotta ask in all sincerity, what would your fursona be if you had one? It's like I would say a cat because I love cats, but I'm like, I'm not very cat-like, so maybe like a raccoon or something. Alright. Valkyrie Black. I know who you are. How on earth did you get the 4MS Noise Swash? Oh, I had that a long time ago, when they weren't extremely rare. I had one several times. I would get one and then sell it and then get one and sell it, and I used it so much. And it's funny because I tried to buy one again and they're like nowhere to be found, or they're like $900. So I contacted this, I think it's in Tasmania or maybe New Zealand. I think it's Tasmania. A pedal builder down there who makes something similar called the Noise Wasp. And I actually got him to custom make some controls more or less for it. It's kind of like a modular unit, but it's not like made for Euro rack. It's like it's in a pedal, but it's got like CV outs and stuff. And I haven't gotten it yet, but he's working on it, and I suppose he'll send it out soon enough. But yeah, unless you have like $900, you can't get a Noise Wash. Jet Ski asks me, how consciously do you consider genre when you make music? I don't fucking care. I don't think about it. I mean, okay, fine. Sometimes I'm just like, like, oh, like it's like ambient music, and then at the end it's grindcore. Like, I mean, it's a helpful way to like describe certain things, but like I'm not trying to be a certain genre when I make music. Do you consciously try to imitate or emulate specific genres or styles, or do you not consciously consider those aspects as much? I mostly don't consider it, but at the same time, like certain genres like have certain like feelings to it and certain vibes, and sometimes I want to go down a certain vibe. I'll be like, oh, it'd be cool to just do something really heavy here or really jazzy here or something. So I don't know. I don't like zoom in an incredible lot and like be like, this has to be good grindcore. Like, I don't know. I just make what I like. So yes, I think about genre in certain ways, and then in other ways I don't at all. I know genres are sometimes reductive or limiting, yes, but they're also very helpful. And some artists outright reject those kinds of labels. I think it's a little silly to take that like really far, because there's got to be a section to put your record in the record store, Get over it. But your music synthesizes such a wide range of sounds and styles, so I'm curious what kind of thought process goes into those various combinations, if any. Just making music that I want to hear, and just making music that I like. Is this a question for the thing? No, this is an email for something else. Okay, so. Alright, this is from Shy Holt. Hello, we came across your Instagram page and just want to say we love your page. We think that our brand will fit with your audience and wanted to see if you would be interested in trying our natural perfume / cologne. What if I had a cologne sponsorship? Alright. Unsubscribe, asshole. I didn't sign up for this. Oh, she likes like biting my armpits for some reason. I let her do it because I'm weird. Oh, this is long. This is long. Well, who cares how long the video is? They give you something to do. Oh, fuck. Okay. This is long. Alright, I'm just gonna do it because I don't feel like editing. I hope you're doing well. I love your music so much. I first started listening around the release of I Will Not Use the Body's Eyes Today. I discovered Eternal Home first, though. Anyways, it's been a joy walking through your discography for Fire-Toolz and some of your other projects. Thank you for your awesome sounds. Here are my questions. Could you talk a little bit about the song Maternal Havening? I'd love to hear you talk about the themes, process of putting the track together, or even just your own retrospective feelings about it. It's my favorite song from Eternal Home, so it'd be cool to hear some more background about it. Okay, but also, if you wouldn't mind answering, where's the outro dialogue from? It's your favorite song? I mean, it's a cool song, and the video is cool, but it's not anywhere close to the best song on Eternal Home. But I respect that. It's very interesting that that's your favorite. That's actually really cool. It's kind of about, well, you know, the word maternal is like mother, and, you know, I'm talking about care and comfort in my upbringing. And then havening is a practice that people do that's still being studied to like help with their anxiety or feeling really triggered or really activated. And what you're supposed to do, sorry, I'm removing my armpit from your nose. You do this, and you like gently do this to your arms, and there's other things you can do. You know, you can do this. You really whatever you can do that has that like action going. And some say that the crossing your arms is vital. I don't necessarily believe that. I think it's a false association with the left-right brain thing. I don't know, but that's what havening is. A lot of times my songs are about like several different things that are like sort of related to each other, but not like the same subject. So the sound clip in the beginning is from a sort of like a psychic who's had out-of-body experiences, and she's like describing something that she experienced once. Yeah, it's just kind of about like my upbringing and the maternal instinct and that type of care and relationship. And there's meanings in there that I don't really like talk about. A lot of times in my lyrics, it's almost as if there's a lot more lyrics between the lines that I don't write. And so there's a lot there, I guess. But it's really hybridizing like spiritual experiences and you know, like being mothered. And the clip at the end comes from a video of this Christian mystic named John Butler. He has a YouTube channel called Spiritual Unfoldment. And you know, I'm not gonna like stand by every single video, but that was in like one of his like interviews or talks, and I just found it really relatable and compelling. And it was like the perfect complement to the lyrics in the song. In additional, if it's not a bother, could you talk about Vedic software, wet interfacing, and specifically talk about your thought process, motivation, etc. regarding the last minute of the song? I enjoy the entire song, but I absolutely love the build-up to the sound collage breakdown. The execution was flawless, in my opinion, similar to the case of Maternal Havening. It'd be nice to hear about the behind the scenes of such an amazing song. Well, one of the reasons why it's on that release and is because it's such a difference and kind of a jarring change from the track before it, Soda Lake with Game Genie. So I had tons of new songs at the time, but I wanted to put that one after it because it's just like so different. The lyrics kind of touch a little bit on I guess you'd say Vedantic, whatever. Advaita Vedanta is a kind of like a sect of Hindu philosophy and spirituality, like a very, very old one. And so there's a lot of that philosophy in the lyrics. And wet interfacing is a phrase I thought of because there is this Franciscan Catholic priest, Richard Rohr, who said something about dry interfacing in like a talk he was doing. And I think he was referring to kind of like a fake or artificial like spiritual connection with the divine. So I was thinking like, oh, the opposite of that would be like wet interfacing, which sounds kind of gross, but that's kind of what I was going for. I just wanted it to sound weird and gross. And then 3 days later, this person sent a longer email. I have a couple more questions. I wanted to rewatch some of the Behind the Muzak videos to make sure my questions weren't already answered. That's a lot to watch. First, some more questions about Eternal Home. Could you talk a little bit about the song Where on Earth is My Satchitananda? I love the way you sing If I Belong, I'll Need a Raft. Stiffened, reluctant to look around. And I like the intro and outro clips. I'm curious about some of the underlying themes at play here. Well, we're still in the Hindu world. Where on Earth is My Satchitananda? It's a little bit of play on words of like, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? You might not remember that or know what that is. And I capitalized Earth because, you know, I just, at the time of thinking of the song title, I felt like the Earth deserved capital letters. And then Satchitananda is a Sanskrit term. And there's different kind of interpretations, I guess, a few different translations, but the main one that I hear from people is that it stands for existence, consciousness, bliss. With this song, the reason why it's called that is this song is coming from the perspective of somebody who is whining about not having attained the peace that they feel like they deserve after working so hard on their spiritual journey to heal certain things. And so there's a part of me that's like really pissy about that and feels like they're entitled to peace because, you know, they've worked so hard for it. And that's not quite how that works, but this song is supposed to be from the perspective of that single part of me that feels that way. And as far as that part that you like the way I sing it, yeah, me too. I'm a really big fan of that part. I don't know why I decided to sing that part and not shriek it like I do the rest of the song, but when I was recording vocals, I just did it, and I was like, wow, it sounds very imperfect, and it has like a charm to it. It's a very authentic, improvisational, you know, choice. So I caught it, or I kept it. Like the intro and outro clips, curious about some of the underlying themes. Also, I was curious about the songs Window to Window to Window to Window and Window to Window to Window to Window to Window, and their potential relation to one another. They sound pretty different, but the names have that similarity. They're both very nice anyway. So there's also two others. One's Window to Window and one's Window to Window to Window. And I'm going to title one of my upcoming songs, you know, there's going to be 6 windows. Their relation to one another is like very loose. They do relate subject-wise, but not directly. It's not like a concept series about the same thing. They just all have a sense of like looking through a portal to another reality or like another outcome or another opportunity. But I think in Window to Window to Window, there was a lot of talk of like suburban life. And so I think there was a reference to like a real, like an actual window, like in a house, in a suburban home. So they're related loosely, but not directly. Extending from that last question, is there any correlation between the sentence titles of I will not use the body's eyes today and I am upset because I see something that's not there? Seems like there could be a theme of sight between these, as well as in the song Above All Else I Want to See. Yeah, you caught it, because all 3 of those song titles are the names of chapters in a book called A Course in Miracles. It's just an ongoing theme in my life around that time then in a lot of the horrible emotional things I was going through, there was this desire to see things as they are, as objectively as possible, even though it's not possible to be perfectly objective, and to be able to see when there's not a threat, and to be able to accurately assess threats or danger. And I don't mean any particular kind of danger. Regarding I am upset because I see something that is not there, can you talk about the themes of this album? I'd like to hear you talk specifically about the first track. I couldn't have been born at the wrong time because I was never even born. That's not the first track. That's the third one. But, so I have a song that's on a split 7-inch with our R23X, and it's called I Was Born at the Wrong Time. And so I couldn't have been born at the wrong time because I was never even born is kind of like reflecting back on that song title and being like, you silly goose, there is no right or wrong time. You were never born, and the not being born is referring to our souls that evolve life by life by life and learn lessons. At least that's just kind of the way I look at things. I'm a kook. And so the I was never born thing is, in a way, it's like deflecting the statement or the thought of being born at the right time or the wrong time. It's kind of like making it null. It's being like, why are you even worrying about that? You were never born. You are eternal. And I just mean that spiritually, and I don't mean like because I'm gonna go to heaven and spend the eternity in heaven. No, I think about it a bit more of a Hindu and Buddhist way. Reincarnation, basically. So I'm a weirdo. But it's not weird to me, and reincarnation is like in almost every major spiritual tradition. Maybe you people who don't believe in souls are the weird ones. And this person also asked about the Great Allower. That's pretty vulnerable to talk about the Great Allower because we're getting on the subject of God, and, you know, that subject for anyone, the most religious person and the strongest atheist, is like, you know, it's controversial, it can be weird, and I don't like to talk about God because I don't want people to project onto me a definition of God that is not what mine is, because my definition of God is going to be something that all of the churches in a 10-mile radius would think I was Satan for thinking that way of God. My view of God is a lot closer to like a Hindu way of looking at it. And I don't mean like deities and stuff like that. I mean like the earliest, the Advaita, Vedanta, the Vedas, how that looks at God, and some other traditions. It's just, you can say spirit, you can say consciousness. I mean, there are people that are kind of like Hindu influenced, but they're outside of the religious aspect of it, and they just focus on non-duality, non-dualism. And a lot of them will just call God consciousness because they equate them. And, you know, I can vibe with that. That's kind of how I feel. It's like a very useful way to look at the God concept. And I usually call God it. I know people that call God they. You know, there's absolutely no gender there. The way I look at God is not the way that your, modern church would ever define it. So don't project that shit on me. And the Great Allower actually does come from that Franciscan priest. He called God the Great Allower in response to somebody who was sort of asking that age-old question, if God is real, then why did he, let this happen or whatever. Calling God an allower is almost like equating God with like the laws of physics and what they allow. Like, we're allowed to kill each other if we want to. Like, it's physically possible. But that doesn't mean God caused that. God isn't the type of thing where there's this constant direct infiltration and coordination, where it's like, I want to go pee, but like God stops me and I can't get into the bathroom. Like, that's not how this crap works. And that's how a lot of Christians think it does work. But that doesn't make sense to me. So referring to God like one way of referring to God as the great allower is something really beautiful to me. Free will, whether it's an illusion or not, we're experiencing what seems to be free will because it's allowed. And reality has allowed that. So anyway, I'm curious about the vocal effect you have on your voice in the second half of The Great Allower. It reminds me of a similar effect in A Moon in the Morning, and situated atop a lofty oak tree, I Kiss Bats, which is an Angel Wings Marmalade song from my newest album. I'd like to hear you talk about this if there's anything to say. I think I know what this person is talking about, but let's go to the song, and I'm just going to make sure. It's like, okay, there's like a little bit more delay, like stereo delay on that part than there is in the rest of the song, but it's really just like high compression, some EQ shaping to accentuate certain frequencies and remove others that I don't really like about my voice, and then isotope trash. And then a lot of de-essing, of course, because it's, you know, trash can get really harsh. There's a filter in the plugin that I use too, but I usually have to use like 2 de-essers. But yeah, it's just like a lot of distortion and delay. And I remember A Moon in the Morning is even more kind of distorted and broken up. I'm using a type of distortion in Trash 2 that like does a lot of gating. And it's really heavily filtered too to make it sound like smaller. And then bringing up the Angel Wings track. Okay, so in this song we have 2 main things. I'm actually, for a lot of the Angel Wings songs, I've been running my vocals into guitar amp emulations to make it sound like trashier. Because guitar amps cut lows and cut highs, and then focused on mid-range because guitars are mid-range instruments. So I thought it would make it sound lo-fi, and it might actually make it sound like some person like flipping out, like with a microphone plugged into a guitar amp. You know, it just sounds kind of shitty, so I like it. And then near the end, when it's not as distorted, but it sounds even weirder, I'm using Goodhertz Lossy. It's a plugin that emulates, you know, like lossy files. Like this, think of like LimeWire MP3s. It's like the shittier the encoding and compression is, like on an MP3, you can just make it sound really, really bad. And there's also other ways of corrupting the audio that the plugin offers I really like. It's like one of my favorite plugins. I'd really love to hear you talk about the cover/remix you did of Tai Shan as well. It's a Rush song, and it wasn't a remix, it was fully a cover. Entirely original instrumentation. I hadn't heard the original before, but the additions made to it really fleshed out the original. I wonder what your relationship with the song is, and in general, thoughts on the original and your remix. Yeah, I just love the song, and most of the song I try to make it kind of sound just like the original. Except for the like dumb metal stuff I did at the end, which I was like debating not doing, but whatever. My relationship to the song is really personal and special because it's like probably Rush's most spiritual song. And it's about kind of like a transcendent experience Neil had. And so, I don't know, plus I just really love new age music and what people call world music, which is a little bit racist, but I just love that style of music, and Rush really like went for it with that song. So is it worth asking who Sling Beam is?
My wife.
She sings and makes music, but hasn't put together new music in a while, and so she's in a totally different place now, so she wants to use a different moniker for her music, so her future material will be under Sling Beam. Sorry to ask so much. I missed the Q&A for Eternal Home, where I would have asked quite a few of these questions. I love your music so much, so it'd be awesome to learn about these great songs. Thanks for everything. Well, Max, you've got your answers. Philip, I was wondering whether you have had some education in the field of music production, or were you self-taught? Both. My education wasn't at a university. It's just been a lot of online like courses and teachers and stuff like that. But I also grew up sort of engulfed in audio engineering in some capacity because of my dad, so there was a lot of self-taught stuff, and I think it made it so when I started to formally train myself, like I took to things like pretty easily and quickly. What advice would you share with someone aspiring to become a professional in this business? You know, different advice for different periods in your journey, so it's hard to give it to you because anything I tell you is going to be right in one era and not in another, because running a business in this world, there's a lot of requirements, there's sacrifices you need to make, there's certain bits of advice you need to take that might not feel intuitive, but you don't want to like totally sell out and, you know, deny your own like personality and convictions. So you just have to be careful. I mean, there's a lot of advice I can give you, but I kind of feel like it's better directed toward people who teach this kind of stuff. And I've learned a lot from Brian Hood, who has something called Six Figure Creative. It's a YouTube channel, and he has podcasts and everything. And he used to be an audio engineer for like mostly metal bands. And he mostly focuses on helping creatives, photographers, audio engineers, artists, whatever, be able to make a living in the current state of things. And so I've learned a lot from him as far as like the business side. And as far as skill, I mean, there's so many great mixers out there who like have courses and stuff. There's a lot of bad ones too, so you got to be careful. But you just like stock up on that education and practice a fuck ton, because you can learn all you can learn, but your mixes will sound like shit if you don't have lots of experience mixing. So mix your friends' songs for free for a while and just practice. Even if they don't end up releasing that version, just practice. So get tons of experience, you know, learn for small amounts of money or even for free online, and there you go. I mean, it's not as, in some ways it's not as hard as some people make it out to be. There's a lot of like gatekeeping boomers and stuff who like, you know, they suffered through it and they learned in these different ways, so that for some reason means that we're supposed to go through all that shit too. There's a lot of myths that are like outdated, so I think it's good to learn from somebody who's like a bit more modern. Like Chris Lord Alge is amazing, but I kind of recommend maybe younger engineers who are a bit more like maybe adventurous and willing to like do some really weird stuff, because they kind of know more about like underground music and modern techniques, whereas somebody like older and far more traditional is still incredibly talented, still legendary. It's just there's a lot of stuff that's a little bit outdated, and so it can make you concerned with things that aren't so much a concern anymore. So final question, would you mind sharing some of your biggest musical influences? You know, definitely Rush. I've been listening to a lot of metalcore, not metalcore, sorry, I haven't been listening to any metalcore. I've been listening to a lot of deathcore, Distant, and Vildjarta. I don't know how to pronounce it. Valdhjarta. Jarta. So I'm constantly looking for new deathcore and slam. Oh, Nihilist, Nylist. His new album is just called The Room, is just unreal. It's so unique and so weird. It's like taking slam and deathcore and like a little bit of nu metal and just making the weirdest shit ever. You gotta listen to it if you like heavy music, or if you like extremely heavy music. I also listen to tons of noise. I really like Wolf Eyes and all of their related projects. I really like Hair Police and all of their related projects. I really love John Weiss, and I love Kevin Drum, and I love Rubber O Cement, and I love what's that other one that has O in the middle? Was it Herpes O Deluxe? I don't know how to say these out loud, but I really like the Chocolate Monk label too. I really like stuff on Load Records, American Tapes. I also listen to tons of smooth jazz and jazz fusion. If you look up the YouTube channel KJC Music and spell music MUZIQUE, you'll find my friend Kyle's YouTube channel, and Literally everything he uploads is all of my favorite stuff, and a lot of it's pretty obscure too. I hope it's not too heavy of a question to ask. I very much understand if it is. Has there been a time where you had to stop listening to a song because it reminded you so much about someone? And if there was, what did you do in order to listen to it again? Like, where could you listen to it again and not have that person come back to mind, if that's possible? Yes. And I don't think it's possible. Or maybe it's possible, but if it is possible, it'll happen. If you can't go near a song for a while, that's okay. Don't try to separate that memory from that song. You're going to fuck up the memory and you're going to fuck up the song. That relationship built itself by itself, probably. You probably didn't try to associate the two. That just happened to be a song that was around at the time or is about a certain thing. Let them be associated. There are a couple of songs that I have a lot of trouble listening to, and most of them involve cats that I've had or lost. There's a few that I have written and released, and one day spontaneously I was like, I need to process some of this. I need to process. So I put on like a couple of those songs, not ones I made, and like I was just feeling brave at the moment, and I put them on. It was like 3 songs in a row. I like cried it out. So I'll feel the grief. And it just felt right at the time to do that. At other times it would be cruel to myself to put myself through that, but it just felt right. And so I got some processing done there. It's still a really sensitive subject, and one of the songs I made for this particular cat, I can't even think about, like I can't even play the melodies in my head, and the song's instrumental. There's not even any words there. It's just the sounds. It's like the soundtrack to the last days of her life for some reason. That's the association that built itself in my head. So I can't listen to it yet. And I'm not doing anything to try to listen to it. And I'm not trying to make it so when I hear it, I don't think of her. Why try to do all that? Well, like, it's just not worth all the effort. Just like, let it be. Let it be how it is. It's okay that it's like that. It's not bad. There's no problem with this. The way you feel is horrible, but it's not bad to feel that. In fact, you should let yourself feel horrible once in a while. Andrew Gallagher says, here's another question, I think because there was an email before that. Something that's come up big in my life from a major transition phase. How have you instilled healthy and productive habits, both in your life and in your creative pursuit? In other words, how do you know what habits to start, what to quit, what to sustain, and what to let go, and when? These are usually questions I don't ask myself. They're usually things, they're answers that come to me if I'm open to them, and if I take a good look at my life. There are going to be things that people tell you that you should worry about that might not apply to you. You just really, really need to pay attention to yourself. You need to pay attention to your convictions and your intuition. Like, look at your life and it's like, what is getting in the way? What's harmful? What's the thing I want to do? Why can't I do it? You just have to try to look at all these things. And it's kind of like partially intuition, partially like logistic or logical or rational. You have to balance those two. And so much of my music is about that balance. Sometimes you have to, like, a problem has to develop before you figure out that it needs fixing. Something has to get out of balance, and then you'll be alerted that it's out of balance, and then you can focus on it. Like, you know, ever since the new medication, my ADHD symptoms have seemed to like really increase. And then I started to notice they were affecting certain parts of my life. And I noticed that and I was like, okay, I need to have more discipline because I have this like ADHD thing that I'm trying to work with. And so I have to like buckle down and discipline myself a lot harder to stay on task or whatever. And that's how I knew what habit to start. Like, I knew that I needed to like try extra hard with this particular thing. So that's how I knew what to do, because I looked at my life and I looked at what was happening. What to quit, what's harming you, and balance the pros and cons. It's like very simple. It's not easy to do, but it's a simple concept, I think. Just pay attention to your intuition, but don't abandon logic for your intuition, because your intuition isn't everything. And if you're only logical, then your life will fall apart just as much. So it's really about balancing the two. And your first question was, besides your collab with Desert Sand, are all your Mindspring albums sample sourced? If so, what are some of your major artists and albums and go-to sources? Well, I scour my 80s smooth jazz, 80s adult contemporary, maybe early 90s, new age and jazz music. And yes, all Mindspring albums are samples, 100% Plunderphonica. So my sources are just like all of these artists that I've found over the years from scouring the internet for like obscure smooth jazz. And it's not all obscure too. I mean, I've sampled Kenny G a few times, Michael Bolton, Amy Grant, stuff like that. But yeah, I just find as many of those albums as I can, and just I listen to it like in my spare time, because I just like it. And then once in a while I'll listen to a song and be like, oh, that one part, that would sound really good sampled. P.S. I made a 5 CD mega mix from your Mindspring discography, wondering where or how to share the info about that on the Discord. I don't know, link to the mix on, I guess, the Angels Music channel. Curious to what you think about my track selections and ordering. Yeah, I'd be curious to look at that if I have time. I'd like to see how other people think about my music. Introduced my super music buddy to Mindspring and they like it. Never heard Slush Wave before. Figured since they like ambient, it was adjacent enough. Yep. Feels great to have turned a very musically versed friend onto your amazing music. Well, thank you so much. Next question is from, I guess I don't know if it's ISA or not, ISSA. How long is your dick hard? We'll respond to this one here. Fuck you, scum basket. Send. Next question from Jordan Reed, somebody I've collaborated with before. Angel, hello. Who are some artists that you've kept close since you've heard them? Artists that have helped shape your core as a musician, composer, audio engineer. Do you mean close as in like personally, or close as in like I listen to them all the time? I don't know. It's just like I go through phases of things I'm interested in. I don't intentionally keep anybody close. Just whatever feels good to have close is close. And then when I start to be interested in something else, then I go there. I mean, all of the artists that I post about on my social media, artists that I mention, artists that I talk about liking and being inspired by in other interviews, these have all helped me shape my core as a musician, composer, and audio engineer. Like every lesson I've learned, every artist I've heard that I've liked, it's all helped shape. It's like it all just comes together and makes what's here now. So it's like, the answer to your question is just like hundreds and hundreds of artists. Sometimes I think about compiling a list of all the artists I enjoy, which would be like a ongoing thing, constantly adding as I think of it, just like to have this database, because it would be fun to like have that list. So I've been thinking about doing that, and maybe when I do that, this question will get answered. My friend Bud Newman asks, what the fuck is chicken potato apple pie? I originally sent this to Fire-Toolz X420 on accident, RIP. Yeah, that email address probably exists. Okay, so Bud is referring to something from a band I was in when I think I was 14 or 13 when the song was recorded. And the way we counted off that song, instead of stick clicks, I would say chicken, potato, apple pie, like with 1, 2, 3, 4, like that, without a mic. And then the rest of the guys would count the song off with like 4 like random like atonal chords. So the song, and it was kind of like almost like a funk rock song. So I was like chicken, potato, apple pie. Chicken, potato, apple pie. And then we go into the song. And the reason we did that is because we were just total goofballs. There's no meaning. It was just like 4 words that like we just said sometimes. I don't know, when you're a kid, you're just goofy. And hopefully you're still goofy. You shouldn't stop being goofy at any point. This question, I don't know how to pronounce their name. It's Achim. Origin and meaning. German. The German short name, for Joachim. The Hebrew meaning is he whom Jehovah has set up. Since you're asking, why am I on your list? Cheers, and don't be polite. Why am I on your list? What do you mean? Like on my mailing list? Every email that I send out from my mailing list says at the bottom of the email, or sometimes even at the top, that you're on the list because you have purchased or downloaded something from one of my Bandcamps, or you filled out one of my forms asking for your email on one of my websites. I used to put the people that sent in quote requests for my business on that email list, but I don't anymore because, somebody that wants me to master their record, it doesn't mean they're a fan of my music. It's possible that you downloaded something from like my old record label, Bandcamp or something like that, and not Fire-Toolz or Mindspring Memories or whatever. If you want to unsubscribe, you can do that very easily. My friend Cody McCory, amazing bass player, the partner of my friend Faye, who is Trust Fund Ozu. What's your favorite David Lynch creation, and how has it affected your work, if at all? So, because of a lot of the content, a lot of David Lynch films, like I personally feel like I can't watch it. I'm really sensitive to violence, whether it be like sexual violence or gore, like torture, like psychological torment. That kind of stuff can be really rough for me to watch. Despite David Lynch being an incredible like artist and filmmaker, I haven't seen a lot of David Lynch films because I know what a lot of them have in it, and I'm just really uncomfortable with watching it. I've seen every Twin Peaks episode and Fire Walk with Me, and it's cliche to say, but it's some of my favorite media of all time. Like, I'm obsessed with it. I've seen the first 2 seasons a million times. I'm not even one of those people that hates the second season. I love it. And yes, some of it's insufferable, but that's part of it. I really enjoy it. I would say David Lynch influences me in some ways. They might be a little bit subtle. I feel like I'm more influenced by, Dale's personality and some of the spiritual undertones, and I also just love absurdism. And even though a lot of what David Lynch does, it does have hidden meaning that he doesn't tell anybody about, in the same way it can be like very absurd, and I just love absurdism. Yeah, Twin Peaks is very impactful for me. I don't think it has any sort of direct influence. Somebody, Comanche 46, I don't know if I said that right. Hey, Fire-Toolz, been listening to Eternal Home religiously for a year now. Way on Earth is my Satchidananda is one of my faves. I've developed my own personal interpretation. Really curious to hear about the meaning behind the lyrics. I answered that earlier, so I think you got your answer. Somebody sent, the subject says AMA question, and there's nothing in the email. And they didn't follow up. So, shit, I'm sorry. You can DM me with your question. Somebody who goes by Mach, M-A-C-H. Do you ever get scared by everything? Yeah, I feel like it's all over my lyrics. Yeah. constantly afraid. I was just talking to my wife today about just this perpetual underlying fear of dying and how I'm not. It reminds me of that Brand New line where he's like, I'm not afraid of dying, I'm just afraid of what comes after. I'm like the opposite. What's your saddest song? Maybe that one song I was talking about earlier that I can't listen to. My song Mego Maitri on Rainbow Bridge is really sad for me too. That's a different cat named Mego that had a horrible death. There are some songs on my newest album that are rooted in a lot of anguish and struggle. There's a type of sadness that Novaturient Waveform Collapse is. It's not like a tragedy type sad. It's definitely grief-ridden in a way, and it's almost like the open-endedness and the mystery of having no idea what's coming next. There's like a pain to that too. So, and then the end of that song, I don't know if it's sad, but it's very, very emotional to me. That's another thing I have a hard time listening to, the end of that song, because the tears just pour. It's triggering something in here, and I haven't been able to figure out what it is. Like, I'll start crying like instantly, like really hard, but I don't really know why. I'm just like, where is this grief coming from? Or where is this hurt? Or where is this, I don't know, love for somebody? I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out. Liebers, Lebers, asks, I know you said your video game music influence is near non-existent. There's some nuance to that. It's like I'm not a huge video game person. I don't know a lot about, soundtracks and composers. And at the same time, there's lots of video game music that I really love. There's plenty of old NES and SNES games that are great, but like at the same time, I'm like not a gaming person, and I rarely listen to video game music. You said, I'm very sure I caught a couple of game sound effects and a few tracks on Eternal Home. Yeah, definitely, because it's more about the nostalgia. Old video games like Super Metroid and Super Mario, I did play them as a kid. And so those sound effects have they're like a big trigger. They're very personal to me. And same goes for like old operating system sound effects. You're gonna hear a lot more of those in my music than you do video game sound effects. Can you elaborate more on the beauty in some of these micro sounds and how they could potentially be used to sneak small doses of personal meaning into yours or anyone's work? Yeah, that's exactly it. Just sprinkling little sounds that give you certain feelings throughout the songs. Definitely makes them more personal. It makes them more emotional. Connects you to them more. Like, that's spot on. That's what I'm doing. Also, what's your approach to drum programming? And how do you always get your drums to hit in this beautiful live and not live between space? It occasionally likes to dance it. Well, first of all, I'm a drummer, first and foremost. That was my first instrument. I feel like it's what I'm best at. So like, I'm coming at this music from the standpoint of like a drummer, not a drum programmer. So that has a big influence. I use my electronic drum set back there for stuff, and if I'm using certain like real sounding drum sets and Fire-Toolz stuff, I'll try to make it sound a bit human. And other times I'm fine with the extreme like mechanical, technical nature of a lot of the more artificial sounding drums. I also like, I really try to focus on like transient control and attack, and drums having a really strong attack so they really cut through. So I think that's part of the reason why you think they might hit. But yeah, it's like, how do you always get your drums to hit in this beautiful live and not live between space? I don't know. I just, each song has its different drum approach. Some are drum set sounding, some are like very glitched up and mechanical, and then everything in between. I don't know. I'm just making stuff. I'm glad that they hit and they're beautiful, and I'm glad that there's an uncanny valley between live and not live. I like that. Sometimes the drums are live. There's a few songs I've played a real drum set. But yeah, I don't really know. I don't really know what to say. I just do what I do, and I guess it turned out like that. Love your work. Deeply overjoyed about Behind the Muzak's grand return. Sort of a return. Amira says, what's your favorite type of sandwich or food if you don't like sandwiches? I love sandwiches. Grilled cheese and PBJ are big for me because they're very nostalgic. What other kind of sandwiches do I like? I like cold sandwiches okay, but I think I'd prefer a hot one. I really like yummy sandwiches. I love having bread with the other stuff. Not if it's soggy, but like I had a grilled cheese today at a breakfast spot, and I added mushrooms to it. Yeah, sandwiches are great. Like I said earlier, I don't like picking favorites of everything, but I like sandwiches. Main Game Boy asks, how do collaboration albums like Desert Memories come to be? I'm pretty sure did William reach out to me, or was it Dennis from Geometric Lullaby? No, because at first we were going to release on Pat Chennington's label, Catskill. It wasn't his idea, was it? I don't remember. It wasn't. Oh, well, it could have been my idea. I don't fucking know. I don't remember. I honestly have no idea whose idea it was. Nadia. She's so nice. Asks me 2 questions. What's the best way to support you? I noticed you removed your Patreon. I keep going back and forth with Patreon. I never officially launched it. It's like set up. I haven't enabled it yet. I just need to find a way to work it into my life where I'm not going to be overloaded with meeting these requirements, where I can also like actually do something with it where people will want to subscribe. So I'm not quite there yet. Best way to support me. I mean, I guess in a way, a good way to support me monetarily, like the best way is kind of like donations, because I'm not selling a product, so I'm not spending money. So like donations like enable me to make music more, because Fire-Toolz doesn't really make me much money. I end up spending more on music videos than I spend, or than I make off of streaming and other stuff. So a very direct way to support me that goes like further is like donating on my Buy Me a Coffee site, which is going to be in the description. There's also Venmo and Cash App and PayPal. I think buying stuff on Bandcamp, buying downloads on Bandcamp is a really great way, because it doesn't cost me money per download. Bandcamp takes their share and PayPal will take their share. But it's still, and depending on the release, I mean, it might go into the label's pocket, but the label deserves some of that money, and they'll pay me eventually. So however you want, really. I mean, I don't direct people to Spotify hardly ever, but the more that people listen to me on there, the more people find out about me, I guess. It's not really making me money, but I guess it is helping spread the word maybe a little bit. So there's a lot of different ways you can support me. I also have merch here. You don't have to buy directly from the label. I have some artist copies while supplies last. So I don't do mail order that much anymore, but if you DM me and you're like, hey, I want this CD, can I just send you money? Like, you can get it from me. You asked, do you like any rap or hip hop or R&B? Yeah, definitely. I'm actually kind of in the process of trying to find more rap of a certain type that I really like, that my friend Max was helping me with. It's that song Puppy Dog Bouncing in a Box. I really love the beat to that song, and I love those like synth stabs in the bass, and I love the tempo and the feel and the rhythm of it, and I want to find more rap like that. I remember being really impacted by like early 3-6 Mafia, and I went through this phase in the late 2000s where I was like addicted to pop radio. I had this weird phase. So that was during like We Found Love by Rihanna, Nicki, Bees in the Trap. Like when that was going on, I was really into pop for some reason. I think that I like 90s R&B more because there's so much more jazz in it, but I like R&B in general. There's two R&B songs that are like way up there for me. One is Brian McKnight, Anytime. Song fucks me up. And then SWV, Sisters with Voices, the one where they sampled Human Nature from Michael Jackson. The song's called Right Here. The SWV song is Right Here. I just love that song. I would listen to it on repeat. Like, I would go back and forth between that Brian McKnight song and the SWV song. Like, I'm literally getting goosebumps right now thinking about, I have to, when this is over, I have to listen to both of them. One of the best songs, one of the most beautiful songs. There's so many things about the production and the composition that I could go into that I love, and that's unique about it. But 3 books you love. Read just a lot of like spiritual stuff, like philosophy, and A Course in Miracles, of course, because it's a bunch of my song titles and personal philosophy are from. I read a lot of Pema Chodron books when I was first getting into Buddhism, a good like 4 or 5 of them. A book called Nonviolent Communication, and I think another book that's kind of about the same thing but it's shorter and frankly more exciting, called I think Speaking Peace, and these are both by Marshall Rosenberg. Nonviolent communication is like this method that's really life-changing, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with physical violence at all. I really urge like everybody in the world to listen or read those books, and if anybody needs the MP3s, whatever, just hit me up. Also, The Power of Now and A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. Some people say Eckhart Tolle. I've always said Tolle. It's probably wrong, but whatever. Sorry if I was blurry for a bit there. I didn't notice. And yeah, I hope that's good. These aren't like nonfiction or like, you know, this is like self-help or, you know, spirituality, and usually both in one. That's the kind of stuff I read, I guess, because I'm always trying to wake the fuck up. My friend Aurora sent 2 emails. One is there a reason why you chose 4 themes for your album, probably referring to Eternal Home, besides wanting to say more shit? Did you want to create a story or some kind of continuity? I know that the answer to this question is kind of obvious, judging by your response from a similar question in a previous episode, but I wanted to send you this because I think that you're cool, and I'm happy that you're going to be bringing back this insightful and pretty entertaining series. It's very nice of you. Well, the names of the 4 sections I chose based on like a different, like 4 different sentiments that I wanted to document and acknowledge. But like, you know, like I said in that other video, like the songs that are in that section don't necessarily directly relate to the name of like that chapter. It's almost like they're additional song titles or lyrics, and since it's like a double album and there's, you know, an A and a B side to each record, like it felt good and like organizationally pleasing to group them like that and give each one a name. But it's kind of like, I don't know, like sometimes music festivals like have a name for each day. And it doesn't necessarily mean that all the bands booked like have to like make sense with that name. So it's just kind of like that. I hope that answers your question. I have a feeling it didn't. You also asked, oh no, you sent that email twice basically. And Doug Kaplan, who is one of the 2 head honchos at Halsey Mountain, how do you go about starting a new Fire-Toolz track? I usually open up folders of source material that I've made, and just scroll, and sometimes it'll be drum patterns, sometimes synth lines, sometimes like guitar ideas or something. Sometimes I'll get an idea in my head before I sit down, like a melody or something, but I pretty much just start with one element, and you know, just drag it into the DAW, and then I don't know, I start looping it, and then if I get this feeling like, oh, let's add some drums or something, I'll start going through my drum samples and pick a couple that sound good or interesting or even painfully simple and one-dimensional, depending on what feels good to do. And I just kind of start building, and I'll start adding stuff and it'll sound bad and I'll remove it. By the end of the song, it might be completely rearranged, but I just start messing around until it starts to form. There's a new song I've been working on that the vocalist of Nihilist is on, and also Lipsticism. And I started making that song out of like random pieces of audio that I've like produced and saved, like scraps. And I just kept building and editing and moving and replacing, and the song sounds way different than it did when I first started. Because when I first started, I didn't like it. Things weren't flowing, things didn't sound interesting enough, they weren't compelling enough. So I just like fucked with it like endlessly over the course of months. I'd open up that song and be like, okay, how can I make this cooler? And just adding, taking away, processing, like just doing little things here and there, work on the beginning, then work on the end, then add a new part in the middle, then remove this. It's just like this intuitive like tinkering, and like starting with some random thing, and if it feels good, I just build, and then it, you know, it's a very free process. Oh, Alana / Lipsticism asked me, is your motivation to make music variable or constant? How do you feel about touring? It's constant, literally constant. How do you feel about touring? I have a love-hate relationship with it. There's a lot of like fear and discomfort being far from home, being far from my cats, far from my loved ones. There's this like underlying constant fear that something's going to happen to me and nobody will know. All kinds of this is like OCD, PTSD, intrusive thought type shit. So, you know, always working on that. However, I love traveling, especially love traveling by myself at my own pace. I love driving. I love driving and listening to audiobooks and like full albums uninterrupted. I love new sights, new things to take pictures of. Like, I just love traveling. And I have like a love-hate thing with playing shows. I really love doing it. I also loathe it, and it's always hard to balance those things. In the past, I've toured a bunch and have always enjoyed it. Now that I'm a bit older, my responsibilities are a little different, and my health, mental and physical, like has its own like things I got to take care of, and then like home and domestic life. My wife has a concussion right now, and there's certain difficulties that she has with certain things, and then I have mine, and it would be very hard to leave home for a while right now. And like my dog and Suki, my cat, he was here earlier. I don't know. He probably walked out earlier. They're very old and they take medications, and it's such a loaded question. There's a lot of excitement, fear, like motivation to do it, disappointment that I can't, but also happy that I can't because it's an excuse to get to stay home and feel safer. It's all sorts of different things. Bottom line is I want to tour again for sure. I don't think maybe for that long at a time, but I really want to do it, and I'm not sure when I'm going to be able to next, but it'll happen. And that's it. That's all the questions. That's all. Been filming for like 2 hours. That's horrible. I got to do a lot of editing when I didn't want to, but it was fun answering your questions. And I only got one piece of shit troll, which is a lot better than I thought it was going to be. So thanks for listening. Sorry if this dragged on too long or wasn't interesting. It's kind of cool you've been able to watch the sun go down, because I noticed that this room looks way different now than it did when I first started filming, so it's kind of cool. Yeah, the lighting's really low with the wide angle view, so I probably, the darker it got, the more blurry or pixelated I got, so sorry for that. I think it's about dinner time, so I'm gonna go smoke some weed and eat dinner, eat HelloFresh with my wife and some animals, and I'm going to force her to watch some horrible YouTube like Cody Co or something. I love you, Cody, but stop doing those Karen videos and you know, making fun of these people with extreme psychological disturbance. You're being exploitive or exploitative. But I also love you and you're hilarious and you make my life better. But stop doing those videos. Okay, bye.